How's it going, folks? Stu here. My current favourite film of the year continues to be in cinemas, because that's a thing films do. Worst Person in the World, should have probably led with that one, still in UK cinemas. And I thought, hey, what better time to recommend some other films that are vaguely similar? And who, in their right gosh darn mind, doesn't love a good recommendation or two? And boy, have I got some good ones today. You probably already worked it out from the title, you bloody old detective you. But today we're going to be chatting about 5 romantic dramas from 5 different countries. And I'm making shapes in here. So if that sounds like your jam, well, you're in luck. Kick back, grab yourself a beverage, because I've got some absolute doozies here for you to sink your teeth into. Or should I say eyes, because you don't watch films with your teeth. That's right, romantic dramas is what I've gone for, apparently, in my quest to find films that are remotely similar to The Worst Person in the World, and that are specific enough to be able to put in a YouTube title. Really, I just want an excuse to recommend some good world cinema. Can't a guy do it? Before we kick into this good and proper though, look, if you haven't subscribed yet and you fancy more content like this, guess what you can do? Say it with me, everyone. Subscribe. Buttons down there, you might not regret it. Can't make any guarantees. And if you want to follow me on Letterboxd, Twitter, all of that jazz, my social links are down there as well. Right, housekeeping's out the way. Let's talk about some world cinema, my babies. I shouldn't have done that. I should say as well, all of these films you can watch from the comfort of your home now. I originally thought, hey, let's get a bunch of films and each one will be from a different streaming service, and I can say, look, you can go watch it on whatever service you've got. But what happened was, I sat down on Mubi and realized a lot of them are on there, so most of this list is available on Mubi. Except for one from elsewhere snuck into the list. Like a little shit that won't leave the party. Although it's not, I'm very happy it's in the party, you know, but like, it was almost a movie party here. So, 5 films, 5 countries. Whichever part of the world are we going to land on first? I don't know. I lost my map. Hey, who's flying this thing? Blah, 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 blah. Sweden. That was me pointing on a map that I don't have. Sweden, home of Swedish people. Also home to, first film on the list, a Swedish love story, which is just suitably titled for this list, I guess. This is a Roy Andersson film, who is obviously a very prolific director. It's essentially kind of just a coming-of-age film, which has got this really kind of lifelike fluidity to it, where you're just sort of watching these characters float through their lives. And it's about these 2 kids that basically meet and fall in love in summer, and we see their relationship within the context of the relationships of the adults around them in their world. Not immediately very worst person in the worldy, but I threw it in the list here because it's got this really kind of sweet and genuine coming-of-age romance. And I always find those kind of romances much more engaging and much more interesting, as you're seeing characters sort of learn and evolve in themselves outside of the relationship. It's like the relationship is obviously the point of the film. I mean, it's called a Swedish love story, so they didn't just title it after not that. But the film is about so much more, and it wraps in so many different things. It's on Mubi, so you've got no excuse, unless of course you don't have Mubi. In which case, I'll just be honest, you should probably just turn this video off now. I say that as if you can't also just find these films outside of maybe. Come back! I said it too soon! Where does our journey take us next? It takes us to Germany, everyone's favourite German country. It's Christian Petzold's latest film, UNDINE, which is a very peculiar film that I don't really want to say too much about, because I think a lot of what worked so much about it for me came in the surprises, in the way it unravels its story. But it is essentially this kind of romance between a guy who meets a woman, and it's sort of wrapped in with this very strange kind of mystery element, which itself wraps in all this kind of folklore, mythic stuff, which sounds weird, and you're quickly realizing is difficult to sell without spoiling things. But I wanted to whack it in here because it's a romance which isn't just a romance, right? It's doing something pretty unique and pretty different. And it's not the most amazing film I've seen in the last few years. Certainly not my favorite Christian Petzold film, but it definitely sat with me after I saw it in a way which is kind of like I want to know more about what was going on in this film. That feeling of a film taking you down a road you don't quite expect to go, or rather folding in elements that you didn't expect to be folding in a really good way. I love that shit. UNDINE. Get it watched. Also on Mubi. Wow. But everyone back in the plane. We're going to another country. I don't know how long I'm going to keep this shtick up for. Probably the whole video. We'll see. Next up, Georgia. That would be a train. Not a... Georgia. Home of people called Georgia. I've never been. Love to. Looks gorgeous. We're getting sidetracked. And Then We Danced is a Georgian coming-of-age romance drama about these dancers in, you guessed it, Georgia. And it really, really landed for me in the way it tackles this kind of young coming of age and discovering your sexuality in a place where it's frowned upon, where it's not supposed to be happening. The film uses the context of this really kind of strict dance academy in Georgia, and our characters are sort of stuck there wanting to be themselves and also being torn between doing what they feel they need to be doing to fit in at the academy. And it's just a really gorgeous film, and not just in the way that it approaches its characters and the relationships in it, but also literally in the way it's shot. It's this really kind of, how to say this without sounding wanky, down to earth, sensual kind of cinematography, and it's set in a gorgeous location, and it uses the location of Georgia really effectively in the romantic story and coming of age tale that it's telling. Can't believe I've forgotten to say that it's got great dance sequences in it, and it shoots those dance sequences really well, because guess what, it's about dancers, so it just kind of adds up. It's in the title, And Then We Danced, but I definitely recommend checking it out, and you can find it on, whoa, not Mubi. This is the one, guys. This is the one that snuck in. It's available to rent basically everywhere, so iTunes, Amazon, you can go find it. It's not free on those services, but hey, you know, sling a couple of quid towards a film if you're going to enjoy it. Do it. Don't be that guy. Let's leave Europe now, though. We're going on a long haul, baby. Everyone in. Haha. What do you want? A beer? A wine? You can have both. It's long haul. The rules don't apply up here. Japan. I've not got anything witty to say about it. I really want to go. You know, last weekend there was that thing called the Oscars. I know everyone's talking about the slap, but you know that like some films actually did win awards there, and one of those was the Best International Feature Film, and I went to Drive My Car, which is directed by Ryosuke Yamaguchi. He's done other films. Surprise, surprise. This is one of those previous such films, Asako 1 and 2. And this is a really kind of, I mean, if you've seen any of his work before, you'll know his kind of general directing style and the vibe that you get from his films. But this is a really kind of interesting look at the kind of rom-com style. It is a rom-com, I guess, but I don't know. Is it? Should it be? I feel like it lands itself with a very rom-com vibe, but actually, as the film goes on, you finish it and you're like, I don't think that was really a rom-com. That feels unfair to tarnish it with that. I don't say tarnish like those are bad things, but you know what I mean? I guess that's exactly why I put it in this list of films recommended after seeing Worst Person in the World. A film which isn't really a rom-com, but sets itself up as one. See, I do have a brain up here. But I love the way that this film evolves throughout. I mean, it starts off this really kind of over-the-top, hyper-real, meet-cute rom-com situation between a character and a guy she happens to bump into. And then the guy sort of disappears from her life, and the film sort of follows what happens after that. It's a mystery, it's a drama, it's a romance, it's a comedy. And here, as much as he does in any of his other films, Hamaguchi has a real handle on how to sort of perfectly weave you through the different tones and style of the film. And it's a sort of film which will also not be afraid to just sort of go off on its own tangent, right? The central mystery of the film isn't really what the film is about, or rather the hook of the film. It's definitely worth checking out, not least if you're a big fan of his work. I mean, dude just won an Oscar, so like, yeah, go back and watch his old stuff. Start here, why don't you? And guess what? You're seeking won't take too long. It's on Mubi. Wow, who saw that one coming? But our tour of the world is coming to an end. We're at number 5 here, and where's it going to take us? I don't know, except I do. It's Mexico. The Empty Hours. I really didn't know anything about this film before going into it. I just thought, that looks like a nice still as I scroll past Mubi. It's directed by FERNANDEZ, LESUR, and it's basically about a young kid. He's about 17, I think, who is left to look after his uncle's motel. And as he goes about his time there, trying to manage this motel, he also meets certain residents at the motel and begins to develop this interesting relationship with one of the people that comes to stay there. And I really love this film's super kind of relaxed and laid-back vibe. It comes off as very unpretentious and super comfortable in itself as it goes through this very kind of slice of life vibe. So in that sense, I guess it's not the most particularly exciting film. It's really just watching this kid go about day-to-day things in a motel and seeing relationships that are formed there. But I also really like the kind of coming-of-age aspect to it. I mean, he's a 17-year-old kid that ends up having this relationship with a much older woman, and it's not a kind of typical romance in that sense. And I know the internet certainly doesn't like films that might even go near delving into interesting relationships between people of different ages, aka Licorice Pizza, aka why did that happen? Why does the internet always do this to films I love? But The Empty Hours navigates that relationship between an older and a younger person and the things that they both are able to give to each other in their relationship and the things that they take away from each other. And I love that coming of age feeling of a film being about someone learning about life, learning the ropes from a relationship that they happen to form with someone else. And again, Empty Hours is available on Mubi, so you can have a big old movie night with these films. Maybe pace them out though. I don't know how you get through that many in one night. But those are my 5 romantic dramas from 5 different countries. Let me know if you've seen any of those films and if you agree with any of my recommendations. But more importantly, if you've got any recommendations to give yourself. There's a whole load of world cinema out there that is just waiting to be watched that I absolutely have not absorbed. So any recommendations would be amazing down below. And while you're down there, why not click subscribe? I'll be doing a bunch more videos similar to this over the year. Different recommendations. I like that whole 5 films and 5 countries vibe. Maybe I'll just do that for different genres. I'll see you guys soon for some more thoughts on more films, but until next time, we really need to find a better pilot for these long haul flights around the world. Turbulence was nuts. Am I right? Yeah, I really thought we were going to go down there between Japan and Mexico. It's crazy. Yeah, it's when it goes up and skits your tummy.